The Jewel of the Maldives Part 5. Chapter 16, The Truth. The next morning came soft and gold, like the island itself had decided to give them a second chance. No storms. No urgency. Just sun-warmed wood beneath bare feet, the rustle of palms overhead, and the slow lap of waves against the dock. Gemma didn't wear her wetsuit. Roman didn't bring a tank. They walked, quietly, down the stretch of sand leading to the private side of the island, the part untouched by tourists, unpolished by staff. The wild edge. Palm fronds grown too long. Shells still scattered across the shore. He led her without speaking, barefoot, his shirt sleeves rolled to the elbows, his posture looser than she'd ever seen it. Not relaxed, exactly. But less guarded. Like a man no longer hiding inside his own silence. At the far end of the beach, behind a curtain of banyan trees, they reached a weathered boathouse. Half collapsed. Roof crooked. Long abandoned. He opened the door and stepped inside. Gemma followed. The inside was cool, shadowed. The scent of salt and old wood lingered like memory. There were two old crates pushed against the far wall, a diving hookah tank rusted beyond use, and in the center, a simple bench. On top of it, a wooden box. Roman walked over, opened the lid, and pulled something out. The ring. The one she'd dropped. The one she'd thought was lost. It sat in his palm now. Whole. Brilliant. Still catching the light like it had something to say. She stared. "You had it?" she asked, voice soft, stunned. "I retrieved it," he said. "After you dropped it. Before I ever told you it was lost." She blinked. "So, the dive. The contract. That whole plan." Roman nodded once. "All of it." Gemma exhaled slowly. "Why?" He set the ring down carefully, then sat on the bench, leaning forward, elbows on knees. "Because I needed to know what it looked like when someone stayed after they failed." Gemma stayed standing. "And the engagement?" she asked. He met her gaze. "There was never one," he said. "Not officially. Not privately. The woman in the photo. Her name was Celia. We dated for 6 months. PR loved it. She looked good on paper. She knew how to stand next to me at events. But there was nothing under it. So you brought her here," Gemma said. "To test her too?" "No," he said. "To see if I could be someone else. Someone who could belong to another person." It didn't work. Gemma folded her arms. "And the ring? Why bring that?" He looked down at it again. "It was never hers," he said. "It was never anyone's." "Then whose was it supposed to be?" He didn't answer right away. He reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out something else, something familiar. The locket. Gemma's breath caught. "I meant to throw it further out," he said, voice quieter now. But the reef caught it. He turned it over in his fingers, gently. She was the first person who saw past it all. He said. "Myra. She wasn't a diver. She hated the water, actually. But she came with me anyway. Spent her afternoons reading on the dock while I dove alone. She liked the silence. Said it gave her time to think." Gemma sat across from him now, slowly. "What happened?" she asked. Roman's voice barely rose above the sound of the waves outside. "I told her I couldn't be with someone who didn't understand what it meant to live underwater. I thought she'd try harder. Learn. Stay. She left instead. A long silence settled between them. She gave me the locket before she walked away, he added. And I hated it. Because it wasn't a goodbye. It was a memory. Frozen in metal. Gemma studied him. You didn't bury the ring because you lost it, she said. He shook his head. I buried it because I didn't believe anyone would care enough to keep searching. He looked at her now, really looked. But you did. You went back. Again and again. Not because of what it was worth. But because of what it meant to me. And that, he paused. That scared the hell out of me. Gemma sat back, arms resting on her knees. She didn't speak right away. And when she did, it was quiet. Steady. Everything you built on this island, the contracts, the assistants, the staged exits, it was all armor. But it didn't stop you from bleeding. Roman's jaw tightened. Just slightly. I didn't want anyone to pity me. I don't, she said. He looked away, jaw still set. Then what do you feel? Gemma leaned forward. I feel like you've been chasing connection your whole life by testing it instead of trusting it. And you're exhausted. And lonely. And maybe, finally, ready to stop. Roman blinked. The kind of blink that comes when someone sees themselves reflected clearly for the first time in a very long while. I think I am, he said. They sat in silence for a long time. No rush. No performance. Just stillness. And for once, Roman didn't try to control it. Gemma reached out slowly, and he placed the locket in her hand. This belonged to a memory, he said. But maybe it can belong to something else now. She didn't answer. Just closed her fingers around it. Carefully. Deliberately. Like she understood what it cost him to hand it over. Outside, the sky had turned bright again, the breeze pulling softly through the trees. The reef was waiting. But neither of them moved. Because in that moment, truth had finally been spoken. And sometimes, the truth wasn't loud. It was quiet. And it stayed. Chapter 17, The Kiss. It happened at the end of a day that didn't ask for anything. No confrontations. No discoveries. No lingering half-truths. Just hours. Soft, ordinary ones. They swam. Not deep. Just off the reef, snorkels instead of tanks, drifting like lazy tourists. They ate lunch on the edge of the South Pier, fresh fish, mango, 2 coconuts cracked open with machetes by a staffer who never once asked what they were doing there together. They didn't talk about the ring. Or the locket. Or the past. And somehow, that made it feel more intimate than any of the late-night conversations they'd ever had. By sunset, they ended up back on the long dock at the edge of the dive center. Not the private one. Not the secluded West End where Roman disappeared. This was the one where everything had started, where the contract was signed, the tension first set in motion, and where the ring had fallen. But tonight, the water beneath them didn't look like the place where something was lost. It looked like a place where something might begin. Gemma sat with her legs over the edge, toes brushing the surface of the sea. The air was warm, the breeze soft, the kind of air that made everything feel closer, heavier, more alive. Roman sat beside her. Not too close. Not too far. He was quiet, not tense. Not calculating. Just present, in a way she hadn't seen in him before. They watched the light shift on the water, amber fading into steel blue, then into charcoal gray. No one spoke for a long time. Then, "Why didn't you kiss me the night of the storm?" she asked, eyes still fixed on the horizon. Roman was silent for a moment. Then, "Because I didn't want it to be a distraction." Gemma turned to him. "From what?" "From the fact that I didn't deserve it." Her heart tugged. Quietly. Not dramatically. Just enough. "And now?" she asked. Roman turned his head. His eyes didn't flick away this time. They held. They waited. "I still don't," he said. "But I want to." There was a silence after that, the good kind. The kind where nothing needed to be clarified. Where both people already knew. Gemma reached down and touched the water with her fingers. Watched the ripples spread out. "I've kissed people I didn't trust," she said. "And I've trusted people I never kissed." Roman's gaze didn't leave her. "And me?" Gemma looked back up at him. "You confuse me." A smile played faintly at his lips. "Is that a no?" "No," she said. "That's a finally." And then she leaned in, slow, deliberate, no surprise, and kissed him. It was a kiss without fanfare. Without angles. Without calculation. It didn't need music. Or moonlight. Or firework timing. It was just a kiss that arrived exactly when it was meant to, slow and quiet and honest. His hand came to her jaw, steady and warm. Not possessive. Just there. A grounding point. She leaned into it, exhaling as their mouths found rhythm, gentle at first, then deeper. Like a conversation they'd both been waiting too long to have. They pulled apart slowly, breath tangled, foreheads resting lightly together, eyes closed. Gemma whispered, "You're not what I expected." Roman murmured, "Neither are you." And in that moment, it didn't matter how they'd met. What was real or staged? Who had said what, or when they'd said too much? Because right now, on that dock, with the world reduced to waves and wind and the echo of lips still touching, this was real. No contracts. No tests. Just two people who had found each other in the middle of a lie, and somehow made it true. Later, they lay side by side on the dock, staring up at the sky. The stars blinked lazily overhead. The sea lapped softly at the wood beneath them. Neither of them said much. They didn't have to. Because everything had already been said in a single, long-awaited moment. Chapter 18, The Betrayal. They didn't speak of the kiss the next morning. But they didn't have to. It lingered in the silence between their coffee mugs, in the way his hand brushed her lower back when he passed behind her on the porch, in the way she didn't rush to put on her dive gear that morning. Something had shifted. Not loud. Not urgent. Just real. For the first time, the island didn't feel like a stage. It felt like the world. Like the only place that mattered. Until the world came looking. It started with a whisper. A ping on Roman's phone just after 11 a.m. as they were walking back from the reef, wet towels slung over their shoulders, flip-flops in hand, sea salt still drying in their hair. He frowned at the screen. Didn't say anything at first. Gemma noticed the way his shoulders tightened. How he went quiet all at once. A shadow dropped over his face, not fear, exactly. But that other thing. The one that comes when something you've been trying to keep small just got big. "What is it?" she asked, stepping closer. Roman turned the screen so she could see. It was a clip. Grainy, but clear enough. Security footage, unmistakably the pavilion. Their dinner. The one that was supposed to be private. There she was, Gemma, laughing at something Roman had said, her wine glass halfway to her mouth, eyes bright. And Roman, leaning in. Speaking to her like they were the only two people in the world. The audio was low, but the body language said everything. Intimacy. Tension. Something more than professional. The watermark in the corner. A gossip outlet. International. One of the big ones. Gemma's breath caught. How did they get that? Roman's jaw set. Elise. He didn't have to explain. She'd been watching. Always watching. And now, she had pulled the trigger. By 1 p.m., it was everywhere. Roman Gray and his mystery dive girl, Billionaire's private island romance exposed. Who's the woman behind the mask? Dive instructor gets cozy with elusive tech mogul. No ring yet, but there's definitely fire. Some sites speculated about an engagement. Others went for scandal, power imbalance, luxury staff contracts. Some even dug up old blog posts Gemma had written about diving, twisting her own words into stories that didn't exist. Roman's team sent statements. Private visit. No comment on personal matters. But the story didn't go away. By that night, drones were spotted flying near the private edge of the reef. And two strangers with cameras were seen on the far side of the beach, guests, supposedly, but Roman's security escorted them off the island before sunset. Gemma sat on the edge of her bungalow porch, barefoot, her phone on silent beside her. She hadn't called anyone. Not her sister. Not her old dive clients. Not the friends who would absolutely see the headlines by now. Roman stood in the doorway, watching her. I'm sorry, he said. His voice was quiet, not performative. Not practiced. Just defeated. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she picked up her phone and scrolled slowly through the headlines. She wasn't crying. She didn't feel panicked. It was worse than that. She felt invaded. I never signed up for this, she said. I know. I didn't even kiss you until I was sure I wanted to, she added. And now I'm a tabloid footnote with no name. Roman stepped out onto the porch, sat beside her. He didn't reach for her. Just sat. I'm going to fix it, he said. How? She asked, not looking at him. What do you do when someone leaks something you can't unsee? His silence was answer enough. The next morning, Elise was gone. Not fired. Not publicly dismissed. Just removed. Her things were packed. Her tablet wiped. Her private villa empty. No note. No farewell. Roman didn't speak about her again. Not even when Gemma asked. But Gemma knew, Elise had made her move, and lost. And yet, it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like something delicate had been exposed to the air before it was ready. Like they'd been building something in private, something slow and fragile, and now the world had put a spotlight on it before it could finish becoming real. That night, Roman came to her bungalow with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. He didn't bring apologies. Or plans. Or promises. He brought silence. Gemma let him in. They sat on the floor by the open window, barefoot, quiet. The wind moved through the sheer curtains like breath. He poured a glass. Then looked at her. I meant it, he said. Everything I told you. Everything we've said. None of it was part of a performance. She held his gaze. I know, she said. And she did. But trust was a muscle, and hers had been strained. Not torn. But not untouched. She leaned against his shoulder, the wine forgotten. They didn't kiss. Not tonight. Because intimacy after betrayal, even when it's not your betrayal, is something you have to walk back toward, not leap into. But she was still next to him. And that meant something. Roman watched the water. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel the need to run. Chapter 19, The Flight. Gemma didn't pack dramatically. No slamming drawers. No storming through her bungalow. No broken glass or breathless sobbing. She folded her wetsuit, rolled up her dive log, zipped her fins into the mesh bag. Quiet. Steady. By now, she knew the layout of the island better than her own apartment back home. Knew which boardwalk steps creaked. Which palm trees leaned a little too far. Knew which staff would meet her eyes, and which ones had started avoiding them ever since her name hit the gossip feeds. The headlines were starting to fade, of course, already being replaced by shinier stories. A celebrity divorce. A royal misstep. Someone else's drama. But the feeling of being exposed. That lingered. It followed her like salt in her skin. Roman hadn't tried to stop her when she told him. I'm flying out tomorrow, she'd said, voice level, eyes unreadable. He didn't flinch. Just nodded once. When? Midday. Another pause. Then, do you want me to take you to the dock? Gemma had hesitated. Then shook her head. I need to do this part alone. He didn't argue. That almost made it worse. The boat was already waiting at the pier. A sleek seaplane hovered just offshore, engine idling softly, its polished white hull catching the morning sun. The dock crew stood back, giving her space. Everyone on the island seemed to know, by some unspoken system, that this was a personal departure. Not a guest checkout. Gemma walked the length of the boardwalk with her duffel slung across one shoulder and her dive bag dragging lightly behind her. The sun was hot. The air too still. She felt the weight of every step. When she reached the edge of the pier, she paused. The view looked just like the day she arrived, sky too blue, sea too perfect. But everything inside her was different now. She had arrived expecting a job. She was leaving with, what, exactly? A complicated story. A bruised sense of self. A man she almost let herself believe in. Gemma swallowed hard. She hadn't cried yet. Not once. But here, now, staring out at the reef where she'd dropped the ring, and found a message instead, something in her chest pulled tight. She almost didn't hear the footsteps behind her. But she knew it was him. Roman didn't say her name. He didn't reach for her. He just stood beside her, hands in his pockets, gaze fixed on the water like they were both pretending this wasn't happening. I didn't come to stop you, he said after a moment. Gemma nodded, not trusting herself to speak. I don't want you to stay because of obligation, he continued. Or curiosity. Or guilt. I'm not leaving because I don't care, she said quietly. I know. They stood in silence. The engine of the seaplane sputtered once, then evened out again, a distant hum that somehow made the moment feel more fragile. Gemma turned to him. I needed this place to mean something, she said. I needed you to mean something. Roman's eyes didn't waver. I do, he said. You do. But you're allowed to leave even if it does. She exhaled. Sharp and quiet. I don't know what any of this is when it's not in the Maldives, she admitted. I don't know what we are without this island wrapped around us. Roman looked down, then up again. You're right, he said. I don't either. Another beat. But I do know that you were the first person who didn't treat me like a story. Or a prize. Or a paycheck. Gemma blinked against the burn in her eyes. Then why does this still feel like the ending? Roman reached into his back pocket, pulled something out. Not the ring. Not the locket. A small envelope. Handwritten. Her name on the front. Just Gemma. She hesitated before taking it. When you're ready, he said. Open it wherever you want. Just, don't open it out of anger. I'm not angry, she said. I know, he replied. But I am. She looked at him, startled. Not at you, he said. At myself. For not knowing how to let someone stay until they decided to leave on their own. The words landed heavy. Because she knew they were the truest thing he'd ever said. Gemma nodded, the lump in her throat catching now. I'm not sure if I'll come back, she said honestly. I'm not asking you to promise anything, he said. I'm just asking you not to erase it. And somehow, that hurt more than a plea. Because it wasn't a goodbye wrapped in hope. It was a goodbye wrapped in honesty. She boarded the seaplane alone. No goodbye kiss. No dramatic wave from the dock. Just the slow lift of the aircraft's nose, the spray of the ocean, and Roman Gray, small now, standing alone on the pier, hands in his pockets, watching her disappear. Gemma looked down as the island faded beneath them. And pressed the envelope flat against her chest. Not ready to open it. Not yet.
Thanks for listening to Billionaire Romance Stories, where love meets luxury in the most unexpected places. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. We love hearing your favorite twists and favorite theories. And don't forget to ring that bell, because in this world of yachts, secrets, and luxurious romance, the next story is always one click away.